Well, I met Dr. Taylor, and he asked me to come say something, and I said no for 2 days. But it's not how. It's my first time to be at the Low Carb conference, so I like to sit in the back. This is not the back. But my name's Dr. Glenn House. My specialty is physical medicine rehabilitation. I do neuro rehabilitation. I'm medical director of rehabilitation in Colorado Springs at a hospital there. I'm subspecialty board certified in spinal cord injury medicine and in brain injury medicine. I'm also low carb. I've been doing it for 4 years. That's not why I'm in the wheelchair, though, so don't worry. That was an extreme snow skiing accident when I was 20 in college. So anyways, I focus on low carb myself. That was basically by a challenge of my brother-in-law who said, hey, look into this paleo thing. So I looked at the science, and the science was real. And I watched what it did for him, and so I started doing it. And one of the things about spinal cord injury is there's always described as, for whatever reason we don't know, but the HDL happens to be low in many cases. And so, and it was in mine. And I had never, at the age of 45, I drew my blood for the first time, and my HDL was 29. And so I went on this for 16 months after reading the science and saying, this is actually real. This low-carb, high-fat diet works. So I did it, and I wanted to test it on myself before I told anybody else to do it. And I did it for 16 months, and after 16 months, rechecked my cholesterol, and my HDL had gone from 29 with doing nothing but diet to 49. And my cholesterol, I'm hoping to get it up because it's only 155, and I hear you live longer with higher cholesterol. My LDL is 95, and my triglycerides are 55. So doing high-fat, low-carb really works. So I was reading the information on the website from the place where I went to medical school, and it talked about spinal cord guidelines and what to do for nutrition. And of course in there, no guidelines except for eat low fat. And then later it says, oh, and by the way, when you look at your cholesterol, it's probably, you're going to have probably difficulty with your HDL, and it's due to inactivity, and there's little we can do about it. Well, I think there's diet that you can do about it. So I'm on no medication, which is pretty unusual for somebody with a spinal cord injury, except for some vitamins. Now I'm starting to incorporate that into my practice. I'm giving advice on that, and I am really dedicating the next, I don't know how much longer I have to practice, 10, 15 years, 20 if I keep doing the low-carb keto diet, probably longer, so I need more life insurance because of this diet. But anyways, I'm incorporating that into my patients and trying to educate them. And I will say the frustrating thing I've had was I don't have time to teach them what I've learned over the last 4 years. So I'm very excited to recently find Diet Doctor and be able to hand that off to them, but then follow them. So I need some assistance with that. So that was fantastic because I'd give them a book. I'd say read low calorie or good calories, bad calories. They're not going to do that, all of them. I mean, it's pretty thick. It's pretty complex. So it's really nice to have all of those tools. I do tell them to read that. I give them other things to read. I have a list of things, but also the website. So anyways, the last thing I want to say real quick is I think that neurology and the neurological patient, I think we're not even scratching the surface of what can be done with that population, with stroke and spinal cord and brain injury and MS. I've noticed that my own patients, I'm starting to notice my own patients that come in with stroke, and I'm looking, and for the most part, everyone's on a statin, and their cholesterol's amazing, and they're having ischemic strokes, and they're on 20 milligrams of Lipitor. And so what happens, if they're on aspirin, they get put on a higher level of anticoagulation, and their lipids their Lipitor gets increased from, say, 20 to 80. So obviously the low cholesterol didn't seem to be a problem. But I'm implementing the diet. So thank you for Low Carb Denver and everybody who's contributed. Appreciate it.
Hi. So has anyone here heard the idea that a ketogenic diet mimics starvation? So last year I gave a talk at Breckenridge arguing that that's actually wrong. Starvation or fasting mimics a ketogenic diet. Thank you. So there is one thing, though, that I do think a ketogenic diet mimics. It is an evolutionary appropriate diet. There are multiple lines of evidence that in our evolutionary past we ate a primarily meat diet, and plants would have been an intermittent or a minor source of food for us. And even though a ketogenic metabolism is extremely powerful and obviously can bring us lots of benefits, it's actually a downstream effect of a diet that we were evolved to eat. So the thing is, if you're going to eat a diet that mimics this ketogenic state, you can do this in ways that don't match the evolutionarily appropriate diet in other ways, and there may be other parts of that diet that are also having an effect, even if they're not maybe as gigantic as the ketogenic part itself. But for some people, that might be the case. So my story, if you haven't heard it, is that I was on a low-carb diet, and it was a good thing for me. I started in 1997, and I achieved a lot of weight loss, which I maintained for a very long time, and it probably had a lot of other good effects. However, all that time, I had a major depressive disorder, which continued to progress until I was re-diagnosed with bipolar disorder type 2. And it was in late 2008 that I decided I was going to try something that sounded completely crazy, which was a plant-free so-called zero-carb diet. And when I tried that diet, and it was purely for reasons of vanity at the time because I had gained weight actually on that self-same low-carb diet that was so successful for me in the beginning. Not only did I lose weight, but it almost immediately put my bipolar disorder into remission. And I have been drug-free and symptom-free for almost 10 years now. So what I want to say to this community is, let's not forget that ketosis, which we should celebrate having discovered one of the great properties of one of the reasons that what we're doing here is so successful, it's just one biomarker, and if we focus too much on that, then we may be missing some other important things that a healthy diet can bring.
So the next person is someone who I've known a very, very long time, and I know her very, very well, and I know that she spent most of her life being completely crazy, and that would be me. So my story is long because it started when I was born, and I'm going to try and condense it into 3 minutes, and I'm going to try and hit the important points. I spent almost my whole life being depressed. Up and down roller coaster of a life. In 2013, it all went very, very sideways when I had a mental break. And as a result of that, in order to not be committed, I had to agree to a psychiatric evaluation. That evaluation led to me being diagnosed with bipolar 2 disorder. There followed a merry-go-round of psychiatrists and doctors and various medications while they tried to find something that would keep me stable enough that I could participate in the world, earn enough money to keep a roof over my head, and not kill myself. Things went relatively well for about 9 months, and then I became suicidal. And I spent 8 months being suicidal, and by that I mean that every moment I was awake for 8 months, my brain was trying to kill me. At the end of that 8 months, I literally couldn't stand it anymore, and I went and found a new doctor who put me on an anti-seizure medication called lamotrigine. And 3 days later, it was like someone had switched the lights on in my life, and I experienced joy for probably the first time ever. And I had joy for 6 months, and then I became suicidal. Their response to that was to double the dose, and the joy returned. It was kind of magical. And so I had joy for 6 months, and then I became suicidal. And their response to that was to double the dose. And that was the point at which I called BS. And I said, I cannot spend the rest of my life waiting for the other shoe to drop, wondering if next time I become suicidal, am I actually going to be in a place where I'm able to act on it? And I can't keep just taking increasing amounts of this medication. I was also really, really angry that nobody on my medical team was asking the critical question. And that critical question was, why does Carrie have bipolar? What is it that caused me to start having bipolar 2 disorder? So I fired everybody on my medical team, and I decided to start figuring out why it was I had bipolar. I had a two-pronged approach. One was I bumped into a doctor on Twitter, who a lot of you may know, Dr. Ted Naiman. He's in Seattle. And I also decided that I was going to delve into my genetics. So I spat into a tube and got my DNA file. Those two things between them are why I'm standing here today. So Dr. Naiman put me on a very hardcore ketogenic diet. And as a result of my DNA searches, I discovered that I have a genetic mutation called MTHFR, which, amongst other things, means that I am not able to methylate B vitamins, which means that when I ingest B vitamins, I can't do anything with them. That meant that I'd had a lifelong severe deficiency of B vitamins. The number one function of B vitamins is neurotransmitter health. So literally, my brain had been starved of the vitamins that it needed in order to function correctly. I also genetically, my serotonin and dopamine pathways are broken in about 40 places, and I also have a genetic intolerance to gluten. So it was no surprise that at some point my brain was going to go sideways with all of these genetic wrinkles going on. So with taking methylated B vitamins and going onto a ketogenic diet, within 12 weeks, Dr. Ted Naiman said, you can stop taking your lamotrigine. And I was too chicken to do that, so we took it down by half and waited, and took it down by half and waited, and after a couple of weeks, I came off the lamotrigine. I have now been, that was 3.5 years ago, I have been medication-free and completely symptom-free for 3.5 years. So my mission now is to talk about mental health openly, because there's way too many people dying of suicide, and there's way too many people who are suffering silently, and I believe mostly needlessly, from mental health issues. And I truly believe that there is a way that most of those can be at least put in remission, if not cleared completely. If you want to hear the whole gory story on my YouTube channel, which is The Real Carrie Brown, you will see a talk I gave in Austin last summer, which gives you the full story of that. If this resonates with you as a sufferer, or because you know someone who suffers from mental illness, I highly encourage you to go look at that and then reach out to me if there's anything I can do to help you.
I owe everything to two keto dudes. I spent a lot of hours listening to them, being real. I'm an internal medicine doc in San Diego. Struggled with my weight my entire life. Came across keto, low carb. This guy named Jason Fung, maybe a couple of you have heard of him. So I started practicing on myself and doing well. So I thought, I'm going to start doing this with patients, having great success with patients. So one of my patients who's pretty flaky, he said, can you please take my wife? She's diabetic, she has peripheral neuropathy. She has tons of complications from diabetes. And I said, sure, I'd be glad to take her on, but if she's flaky like you, It's going to be a tough ride, right? Really, because all we have is medicine if we don't do lifestyle, and and we see the effects of all that. So she came in, she was on 40 units of insulin twice a day. Severe neuropathy, she had gained 46 pounds, and her life was terrible. She said, I'm just tired all the time, I feel terrible, my insulin dose keeps going up. As we all know here, she was getting more and more insulin resistance, so her previous doctor was basically killing her. And the previous doctor said, you need carbs, you gotta keep eating carbs, right? So I said, well, if you do a ketogenic diet or at least a super low carb diet, we can reverse this disease process, maybe. Not all the time, but maybe we can get you on a lower dose of insulin, get your energy back. You will lose weight on this. So 3 months, she starts doing great. She got really serious about this. She was really dedicated. So at that same time, she wanted to do a study at a big university in town, and they had diabetes experts, and they were trying out a new diabetes drug. If she got into the study, they'd pay for all of her other medications, statin drugs and blood pressure and everything else. Within the intervening 3 months before she got there, she came off every drop of insulin, right? She loses 38 pounds or something like that. Blood pressure normalizes, she's feeling great, and then I get a message from her. And she said, Doc, just wanted to touch base. I went to that program. Her A1C was 5.6 or 5.8 at that time, coming down from like 12. I mean, that's how crazy it was on insulin. So they said, you're doing pretty well, but you're not eating enough carbs, right? The diabetes educators there at this and the experts, not eating enough carbs. So what we're going to do is put you on 50 grams of carbs with each meal. Then we're going to give you insulin to cover the carbs we're giving you. She said, Doc, what do you think? Do you think that's a good idea? And I said, do you want carbs that bad that you're willing to go back on insulin? She said, no, but that's what they told me to do, right? She's off all of her blood pressure. She's doing outstanding now. But it tells you, like, these guys stepping out, giving me a chance to talk, and Carl giving me the opportunity to come on. It was a huge deal. And now I have a podcast with Jason Fung, Tro Kalasian. A lot of you may know him. He's lost 150 pounds doing low carb, reversed his metabolic problems. And so we're seeing that, and we're excited. What we're doing is reaching doctors who are on the fence like I was, that are saying, gosh, I don't want to invest all my time in this new fad that's coming out that's going to be gone in a month or two. And so that's who we're reaching, and the people who've just given up. So thank you guys, appreciate it.
So hello everybody, I'm Paula, and as you can tell, Paula Rincon, and as you can tell by my accent, I'm not from the United States. I'm Colombian, and I hope it's okay to read because I'm not very good at impromptu speeches. But basically, only 2 years ago, being able to personally thank the speakers we have here for the great influence they had in my family as we went through all these health crises was only a dream. Back then, I had many, many questions, and I still do. My dad was given a chemotherapy protocol that was only debilitating him, and we needed alternatives. Today, we still have many questions, as most of you might have, because we simply don't know enough yet. But at least we can all say with certainty that low-carb science has advanced enough to give us hope. We can also trust that we're going in the right direction as we stray away from the mainstream medical recommendations when it comes to chronic disease. Armed with a microbiology degree and a scientific research experience, I started translating geeky things from English to Spanish, papers, and some blog posts. Some of Amy's were my big inspiration at the beginning. And I went online and I started showing others that didn't know English that this low-carb, high-fat thing was indeed solid. I now have been able to reach an audience of thousands of Spanish speakers, and I would not have done this without the support of my mom, whom a lot of you might know. She's over there. And I now have a network of Latin American health professionals who are hungry for the knowledge that they can use to help their own practice. We not only have a problem with the nutritional guidelines and the standard of care, we also desperately need more studies to support the use of low-carb, high-fat interventions in different populations, just like in Latin America. Yeah, we need more money, definitely. Such as countries like mine, Colombia. And that's why I would like to ask every one of you to help us bring the skills, your teams and your efforts to Latin America so that they can make culturally, or we can make culturally appropriate recommendations to those who need it, all the way from Chile and Argentina to Mexico and even Spain. That doesn't belong to Latin America, but they speak Spanish. I have teamed up with doctors, and I currently help them by coaching and guiding their patients through their habit-reforming journeys once they've given a medical plan. Like I said, I only have a degree in microbiology. I basically make sure their patients feel supported and have the tools to troubleshoot their way to health and efficiently. I also have a podcast. It's called Low Carb en Español, for those of you who have patients who speak Spanish, Low Carb en Español. And that's why I have also joined forces with Low Carb USA and the Latin American Federation of Endocrinologists that oversees 22 Latin American countries to start qualifying professionals with courses and high-quality, medically reviewed content that we can hopefully present to Latin American universities showing that low carb science, so that low carb science is instructed in our universities. With the help of the same federation, we're negotiating to possibly get the support of the Health Department of Colombia to bring events like these. With the support of simultaneous translations, we already had our first one-day Latino in West Palm Beach of low carb event. And to help support people who cannot travel overseas or simply don't understand English. And I'm talking particularly about health professionals. And I'm also flying out to Diet Doctors headquarters tomorrow to hopefully help build a stronger Diet Doctor Spanish website that empowers more Hispanics to join the revolution. Would you guys join me? If so, let's talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello everyone, I'm Mickey Kim, and this is Jason Song from Korea. It's actually supposed to be 10 people, but a lot of us had to leave for the flight change, so I'm sorry. First of all, we would like to thank everyone who organized this event. We could not be more grateful to be in this room today. And we would also like to share a little bit of insight on how much impact people in this room have on an international level. In 2016, with the help of the many doctors in this room, we produced and aired a Korean documentary on the ketogenic diet. And it quickly became a national sensation. It was difficult to buy butter and bacon in the supermarket because it was all sold out. It was great. However, there's always however. Soon after that, several national doctors' organizations issued a statement against the keto diet on national television. We were mocked and treated like a cult. This made it very difficult for us to keep the momentum going. But we are not giving up. Today, we are back here again with the documentary camera crew over there. And this time, we formed our own organization to provide real information as well. It's called Low Carb Korea. We are a group of doctors and YouTubers and entrepreneurs who are working together to spread the low carb diet in Korea. I would like to quickly introduce you to the president of the group. This is Dr. Jason Song, surgeon. He treats cancer patients. He treats cancer patients with ketogenic diet. And as for myself, I run an online keto community in Korea. As much as we got help from you guys, we are also very eager to help anyone in the community who needs our help. So feel free to contact us. We'll do our best to contribute to this community. Again, thank you so much, everyone in this room, especially the people who graciously accepted our interview request. We hope to go back to Korea with the latest information and start another wave of the keto diet in Korea.
I think we are family in keto. Thank you. Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you. On behalf of Jeff and myself, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been a great meeting. I think we're determined to do it again, same time, same place next year. And thank you so much for all coming and contributing. Thank you.